Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 30 minutes. A nail-biting win for India at the Oval against England in its narrowest test win ever by 6 runs, levelling the 5-match series 2-2. Mohammad Siraj gets a second innings fifer and the man of the match. Philippines President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has landed in Delhi on a 5-day state visit to India. He is set to meet President Draupadi Murmu and hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. A report on press freedom after a year of the caretaker government in Bangladesh finds that attacks against journalists under Mohammad Yunus have shot up by 230% compared to the previous year. And Japan swelters through its hottest ever June and July. Weather agency says 17 heat records broken on Monday at different locations. Well, first up, we're talking about that amazing win that India has had against England at the Oval. Mohammad Siraj picked up 5 wickets to help India to a famous 6-run win at the Oval on Monday. In addition to Siraj, Prasidh Krishna chipped in with 4 wickets. With this result, India has levelled the series 2-2. Now, chasing 374 runs, England were in a bit of a pickle at 106 for 3. However, Harry Brook and Joe Root launched the counter-attack to push India on the back foot. But late last evening, as the conditions turned conducive to bowling, India managed to pick 3 wickets. And today morning, in a nerve-wracking passage, India held their nerve. India took the last 4 wickets in under an hour to bowl England out for 367. Siraj was India's hero, dismissing Jamie Smith and Jamie Overton before bowling Gus Atkinson to complete a 5-wicket haul. After Prasidh Krishna had bowled Josh Tongue for a naught, Chris Woakes walked out to bat wearing a sling to protect his dislocated shoulder with 17 runs still needed. Atkinson hit Siraj for a 6 to give England brief hope and cleverly protected Woakes from the strike. But Siraj produced another brilliant yorker to earn India their narrowest ever test win. Let me bring in my colleague Naran Singh on this amazing story that in Team India scripted. Naran, it couldn't have been better as the final, the 5th match of an innings, could it?
Definitely, Gautam. It was, we can say that the kind of victory India registered here, quite amazing, and it's good for the Test cricket because Test cricket getting so much excited and so much coming down the wire, it will keep the Test match alive. But as the India played throughout the series, right from the first Test match at Headingley, Leeds, the score line would have been, I think, 4-0 in favour of India. Let's first talk about the Headingley Test, where England need to chase a 371-run target, and I think chasing over 300-run target in the 4th inning of a Test match, it only happens once in a blue moon, and chasing 371, it was looking like impossible for the England team. But England team, with their baseball philosophy, chased it down, and before that in 2022 they chased down 378 against India at Edgbaston. So it was almost in India's hand the first match, but they let the match slip. And talking about the Edgbaston, India won that match by a massive margin. We saw the fantastic display of cricket and a fantastic bounce back by the Indian team. Now, talking about the Lords, the match was in complete control of the Team India and the way they batted, but in the second innings they needed 193 runs to win the Lords match. But apart from Ravindra Jadeja, we saw that what a fantastic knock he played from the one end, but India continued to lose wicket from the other end, and India lost that match by Lords match by a small margin of 22. And the 4th Test match at Manchester, it was a match where England dominated, and it was looking like that England would won the Manchester lackluster match, but the defiance and the, we can say, the grit, the Indian batsmen, especially in the second inning, Washington Sundar scoring a ton, Shubman Gill scoring a ton, and Ravindra Jadeja scoring a ton, that converted the defeat into a draw in that match. And here we all know that what kind of cricket India played. Definitely we can say that it was in India's hand completely, because chasing a target of more than 300 is always a difficult. But the way yesterday, as you mentioned, that the way Harry Brook and Joe Root stitched a 195-run partnership, it was fantastic, and that changed the complexion of the match. If you take a look record at the Oval, the highest chase at this ground was way back a century ago. That was 263, and you just think that chasing at such a ground target of more than 300 is not feasible, but England came close to it, and finally India managed to draw this series, and this win, this draw is not less than a win.
Yes, certainly it does feel like a win, doesn't it? But just in terms of positives that India can draw, we had a young captain, a relatively younger side, not too many seniors in this one, but also the fact that for more than half of the series, our key striker was not there, Bumrah wasn't there, and yet we managed to level the series. So Siraj emerged as the unheralded hero.
Gautam, a very important point raised by you. Half of our players were not there because got continuous chopping and changing. We saw that few players got injured. We saw that it was already announced that Bumrah will play only 3 test matches, and later on, after the completion of the 4th test match, BCCI, the reports came that BCCI was not happy with the pick and choose policy of the Jasprit Bumrah, because it just changes the team combination. If you take a look, test match is all about the team combination. It's not a magic. If you have a proper team combination, definitely you will have an upper hand. If you take a look, the mentor of the KKR when Gautam Gambhir used to be, when he won the IPL title with KKR, he was the mentor, and he has 6 bowlers with him, and he never changed his side, and his team took 106 wickets throughout the tournament. They won the title, but here that thing was missing, I think. We saw in the first match, Bumrah was there, after that Shardul was there. In the next match, both of them were not there, but few more changes made, and finally we saw that injury to Akashdeep, injury to Arshdeep. So continuous injury was also there. So I think here the BCCI should take a look, because if a series like a 5-match series, it's very long, and it's we can say that it dents the mental strength, also the physical strength of the players, and for both English team and also Indian team. In that sense, there should be a bifurcation of the red ball cricket and a white ball cricket. It will definitely help the players, and also they help the management too. And finally, if you take a look, Mohammad Siraj was the only pace bowler from both the sides who played all the 5 test matches and has bowled more than 185 over throughout the series. Talking about the English team too, there all the bowlers except Chris Wokes were replaced for this match. So it is also for the home side too. It takes toll to the bowlers, especially the pace bowler. They have to bowl the long spells, and it was visible. There only one bowler, Chris Wokes, also got injured. So
yes.
All in all, the point mentioned by you to take
yes.
a look at the injuries.
Let's also quickly talk about Shubman Gill, Naran, because we knew that he someday would be the future of Indian cricket, but we never thought that it would come so soon, and in this manner, that he is scored tremendously, top scorer throughout the series on both the sides, and captaincy was also quite on the mark.
Gautam, if you take a look as a batsman, he was exceptional at scoring highest run in the series, more than 700 runs. But as a captaincy, still he has to learn a lot, because we saw there was yesterday, if you take a look, there was a defensive approach he showed in the fielding. And if you take a look, there was very less, we can say, the interaction with the spinners, bowlers, and there was a defensive strategy in his captaincy. Unless and until you are not aggressive captain, you can't achieve big thing in the test cricket. But it's very early to say about the future of the Shubman Gill as the captain, but as a batsman he was exceptional. As a captain he needs to learn a lot.
All right. Well, let's leave it there. I would have loved to talk to you more about, the way forward from here, and also about England's performance as well and Ben Stokes. But we'll leave that for another time. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Naran Singh. Now, a report by a Canadian agency has highlighted the rise in mob lynching related deaths as far as Bangladesh is concerned since August 2024 in the aftermath of the political upheaval after former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left the country. The political instability caused violent disturbances throughout the country, causing mob lynching incidents at many places. The report mentioned the exponential rise in the number of deaths. The incidents rose 12 times in 2024 as compared to 2023 from August 2024 to July 2025. The report mentioned that a total of 51 deaths were recorded in 2023 during Hasina's tenure, which saw a sharp rise to 637 deaths since the new interim government came to power. The report attributed the rise in deaths to various causes, including political instability, lack of trust, and misinformation. Also, in another report released by the Rights and Risks Analysis or RRAG group on Monday, it has raised concerns about the growing attacks on media persons in Bangladesh under the government of Dr. Muhammad Yunus. The report, named Bangladesh Media Freedom Murdered by Dr. Muhammad Yunus, says that press freedom in Bangladesh has deteriorated sharply. It added that attacks on journalists under Chief Advisor Dr. Yunus have increased by about 230% in comparison to 383 journalists attacked under former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina from August 2023 to July 2024. The number of journalists attacked jumped to 878 from August 2024 to July 2025. Further, to silence the media, Yunus established CA Press Wing's Facts as the de facto censorship authority of the interim government. According to the report, funding worth £474,000 was provided by the British Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office to finance this CA Press Wing Facts. Now, the United Nations Security Council will be holding a special session on Tuesday morning to discuss the 50 hostages still held by the Hamas in Gaza. It was following a request by Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, who will attend the meeting in New York. Referring to a video recently released by the Hamas showing one of the hostages still being held in Gaza, Sa'ar called for the international community to put the focus on the hostage situation.
This past weekend, Hamas and Islamic Jihad cruelly released horrifying videos of our hostages, Eviatar David and Rom Broslavsky. The world witnessed their terrible condition, starved, tortured. Eviatar was forced to dig his own grave. The world saw the thick arm of the well-fed terrorist next to the starved and tortured Eviatar. The international community must make it not worthwhile for the terrorists. The world must put an end to the phenomena of kidnapping civilians. It must be front and center on the world stage.
The Philippines President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. arrived in New Delhi on a 5-day state visit to India. President Marcos was received by Minister of State for External Affairs, Pavitra Margarita, and accorded a warm welcome. This is the first visit of President Marcos to India since he assumed the highest office in his nation. Now, during this visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Marcos are scheduled to hold bilateral discussions on Tuesday. President Marcos will also meet India's President Draupadi Murmu. India and the Philippines are celebrating 75th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic ties, and the visit is aimed at further strengthening these relations. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Over 3,000 Boeing fighter jet workers go on strike after rejecting contract offer. Iran sets up new defense council after the war with Israel. And severe weather warning is in effect in parts of Britain and Ireland as storm Flores approaches.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
Exactly what save your country.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, in the US, more than 3,200 Boeing fighter jet workers in the St. Louis and Illinois area went on strike on Monday after rejecting a second contract offer. According to the company, the rejected 4-year contract would have raised the average wage by roughly 40%, including a 20% general wage increase and a $5,000 ratification bonus. It also included increasing periodic raises, more vacation time and sick leave. Boeing Defense said it was ready for the work stoppage and it will implement a contingency plan that uses non-labor workers. In Japan, 17 heat records were broken on Monday after the country sweltered through its hottest ever June and July. The city of Komatsu in the central region of Ishikawa saw a new record of 40.3 degrees Celsius on Monday. The Japan Met Agency, or JMA, said Toyama City in Toyama Prefecture, also in the central region, hit the highest temperature of 39.8 degrees Celsius. On the 30th of July, Japan experienced its highest recorded temperature, a sizzling 41.2 degrees Celsius in the western region of Hyogo. And severe weather conditions and warning came into effect in parts of the UK, Ireland and Scotland on Monday as Storm Flores brought strong winds and rainfall. An amber warning has been issued in large parts of Scotland and yellow warning in many parts of the UK and Ireland. Several flights from Glasgow to Scotland's islands have also been cancelled. Authorities have advised people to stay cautious as visibility remains low and there's a risk of flooding. Iran's top security body has approved the creation of a new defense council more than a month after a ceasefire ended a 12-day war with Israel. The new body, which will be chaired by the president and include top military commanders among other senior officials and ministers, will be tasked with reviewing defense strategies and enhancing the capabilities of Iran's armed forces. On Friday, local media said the decision comes as part of broader structural changes to Iran's security apparatus. The move comes in the wake of a conflict with Israel that, according to official figures, left more than 1,000 people dead in Iran and 29 in Israel. Now, amid escalating tensions between Washington and Moscow, US President Donald Trump said the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to visit Russia this week. After a visit to Israel and Gaza Strip, Witkoff is to travel to Russia potentially on Wednesday or Thursday. Trump also hints of imposing sanctions on Russia if...
They seem to be pretty good at avoiding sanctions. You know, they're wily characters and they're pretty good at avoiding sanctions, so we'll see what happens. But Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, may be going to Russia. They would like to see him. They've asked that he meet, so we'll see what happens.
And Trump has also hinted of imposing sanctions against Russia if it doesn't agree to a ceasefire. The US president, who returned to power on a pledge to swiftly end the conflict, has in recent weeks rolled back his earlier conciliatory approach towards Moscow and signaled openness to arming Ukraine. And the Kremlin on Monday said that Russian President Vladimir Putin may meet US envoy Steve Witkoff this week and also praised the US mediation efforts aimed to settle the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now, in response to US President Trump's statement, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov on Monday said that everyone should be careful about nuclear rhetoric. He added that it was clear that US submarines were already on combat duty and Moscow had no desire to get into a polemic with Trump on the issue. Now, his comments have come after Trump's order of 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions. Now, Brazil's President Lula da Silva has emphasized the need for caution in discussions with the United States regarding tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump. During a congress of his party, Lula acknowledged that diplomacy requires restraint, saying he recognizes there is a limit to his fight with the US government. He added that he might not be able to say everything he wants to say, so he must focus on what is feasible to discuss. His statement came as tensions escalated following Trump's announcement of a 50% tariff on Brazilian goods and sanctions against Brazilian Justice Alexandre de Moraes under the Magnitsky Act. Now, Trump has signed an executive order slapping 50% tariffs on Brazilian imports. A Brazilian judge was also sanctioned by the United States for what President Donald Trump calls a witch hunt against a far-right ally. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has expressed optimism on Sunday that negotiations with the US on trade would lead to something constructive. Carney, during his visit to Vancouver, also insisted that Canada is strong and would continue building on its own.
Canada is strong. We can give ourselves far more than anyone can take away. We're building this great country. I just met with the Premier, building BC, building Canada, building in a Canadian way, building sustainably, building together, building positively, and that's what we're going to do. And yes, we will we'll come to something with the Americans, something constructive with the Americans.
Now, Carney and US President Donald Trump will likely talk in the coming days after the US imposed a 35% tariff on goods not covered by the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Canada and the US have been locked in a tariff war for 6 months, and despite talk of intense negotiations in recent weeks, a trade agreement remains elusive. South Korea's industry minister said on Monday that the country managed to avoid the worst-case scenario by clinching a US tariff deal. Industry Minister Kim Young-kwan made the comments at a roundtable meeting with business groups and academicians. Kim said that the government would continue discussions with the US to work on the specifics of the investment package so it would benefit the country's economy and company. Under its deal with the US President Trump, South Korea also agreed on a $350 billion investment package, including $200 billion in strategic industries such as semiconductors. The rest was earmarked for the US shipbuilding industry. Secretariat-level meetings between representatives from Thailand and Cambodia began on Monday as part of preparations for the upcoming General Border Committee meeting. The GBC meeting will be convened on Thursday in Malaysia. The Thai delegation will be led by General Nathapon Narpanit, Acting Minister of Defence, while the Cambodian side will be led by General T. Siaha, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defence. The United States and China will participate as observers in the proceedings hosted by Malaysia. This GBC meeting stems from prior discussions between the Thai and Cambodian governments held in Malaysia, which led to a ceasefire agreement reached on the 28th of July. The GBC meeting is part of that agreement and is regarded as a step towards restoring peace and stability. Now, in a bold stride towards net zero emissions by 2050, Vietnam has unveiled a roadmap to transform crop production and curb agricultural emissions. Responsible for nearly 20% of the nation's greenhouse gases, with rice cultivation as the biggest contributor, the new 2025-2030 plan targets high-emission crops and commits to cut methane by 30%. Experts praise the initiative for blending climate action with farmer prosperity, ensuring eco-conscious farming becomes the backbone of sustainable growth. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan that QR code on the screen and download the app. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.